Hey guys, here we are with Anthony C. Ferrante, the director of what's now the Sharknado trilogy.
Yes, we're a trilogy now. It's pretty awesome.
So we have Sharknado 3 is coming out.
Oh, hell no.
Oh hell no! I'm sorry. Sharknado 3. Oh hell no! Is coming out. It's airing July
22nd on Sci-Fi.
On Sci-Fi. Okay. So what can we expect from this round of Sharknado insanity?
Well, I think the first two movies, we were playing it safe. We only destroyed one city at a time. First one was Los Angeles, then New York. I mean, come on. So when you get to 3, we got to up the ante, and so now we're kind of tackling the entire Feast Coast. And so we take on Washington, D.C., we take on Orlando and a couple little cities in between, and then we kind of go boldly into some other territory.
Okay.
That's pretty awesome.
Did you say Feast Coast?
Yes, it's the Feast Coast. Not the East Coast, the Feast Coast.
That's beautiful. Now, there's also a Sharknado comic that you wrote. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I'd met Dan Perrin, who was the artist, one of the regular artists for Archie, and he also writes for Archie. And he did a drawing last year for one of the producers, which was Archie versus Sharknado. It was like a joke cover thing. And then I saw him going, "We gotta go talk to Dan. We want to make this happen." And so for 6 months, I was hounding the producers and Archie, going, "We need to do an Archie versus Sharknado comic book, and I want to write this thing because I've always wanted to write a comic book." And right around when we were in the middle of shooting, they're going, "Yeah, it's happening now." It's like, really? In the middle of shooting this movie? So I had to start writing the Archie versus Sharknado while I was actually making Sharknado 3.
Of course, yeah.
And the cool thing is that it takes place during the same timeline as Sharknado 3. So, we have our thing set in D.C., so Betty and Veronica are kind of being badass in D.C., and then it picks up in Riverdale, and Riverdale is conveniently located on the Feast Coast.
Of course.
But it's the comics are really interesting because Archie still has technically 3 girlfriends, Betty, Veronica, and Cheryl Blossom, who's this redhead that popped up a couple decades ago. And so I really wanted to empower Betty and Veronica. So I actually had a lot more fun writing Betty and Veronica and making them these like kick-ass, heroines in the comic. And everybody gets to save the day. So it's not just what you'd expect where, Archie is like our Finn. No, everybody gets an opportunity.
Okay, nice. It's a post-Buffy Archie world. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the publishers at Archie and the editors, they were so liberal about letting us do a lot of crazy things. Like I was able to kill off characters because it's sort of an offshoot of the other comics.
Right.
So I could do things that you normally wouldn't necessarily be able to do in their regular timeline.
Right.
And I always keep thinking there's nothing left to say with the Sharknado universe. And I'm writing this going, oh wow, we haven't done that, and I get to write it in the comic book.
Shared universe too.
Yeah.
Sharknado 4, what's the deal?
I think this movie's successful. We're going to be doing more Sharknados, I think, but the audience has to decide what to do. I think as long as we can keep on making it different. I think the thing is that it's not really about, here's the Sharknado and let's do this. I think what it is what do we do by putting the Sharknado universe in another genre? Not parody, but kind of almost homage. Like in this one, we do White House Down with Sharks.
Right.
So sharks are terrorists. They don't have guns, but I mean, it's that kind of thing. So you have Finn, and a gun-toting Mark Cuban as our president, taking down sharks that are taking over the White House. That's cool. So it's a whole other different palette.
Right.
So as long as we can kind of do different things like that, it makes it exciting because who would not love to do those kind of movies?
I want to see you take the Sharknado phenomenon into space eventually, like a Jason X version of Sharknado.
Look, that's probably the final frontier. I think that there's a lot of validity in that. We may try to do something like that.
I know you. You will try to do that.
Well, if you do it, you have to embrace it.
Yeah.
That's the thing is like if you do it, you can't just go, it's 2 minutes in the movie, because we learn like with the Friday the 13th movies, Jason Takes Manhattan, and it's like the last 5 minutes of the movie, and the audience get upset.
Right. Yeah.
You just have to go. If we're doing this, we're making a space movie.
Yeah. You need to Jason exit is what you need to do. So now you actually write some of the music as well for the films, don't you?
Yeah.
Songs.
What I learned years ago when I started doing my movies is that we could never afford to license songs, and Robbie Rist, who is Cousin Oliver and Brady Bunch and stuff, he's an amazing musician, and we've been friends for a long time. And my first movie said, just come over. If we need to do some blues stuff, you can't license it, we'll just do it. And we started writing songs for the movies because a lot of stuff that was licensable isn't very good. And Robbie's an amazing producer and writer. So we did a whole bunch of stuff for my first movie, Boo, and it kind of just continued as a joke in a way. We kept changing the name of the band. Like the band broke up, and then the next movie. So the first movie, it was Black and Blues Review. Second movie, we did this gospel stuff, so it was the Toothless Jimmy and the Applejack Kids. And then the third one was Gingerbread Men, because we were doing 50s. And then when it came time for Sharknado, we said, oh, well, we got to call ourselves Quint, because it's going to be rock and roll.
Of course.
And so we wrote the theme song, Ballad of Sharknado, which I sang on. And it kind of blew up in a weird way. And then we wrote, I think, 4 other songs for that movie. So we in each of these movies, we keep writing these things, and we put the stuff on iTunes under our band name, and then they decided to do an official soundtrack album for 3. So we have the Ballad of Sharknado on that soundtrack album, and a new song called Crash. Plus, we're on a soundtrack album with Camper Van Beethoven. Now, that's like, Camper Van Beethoven is one of my favorite bands.
Yeah.
And the fact that we're actually on a soundtrack album
That's
with
cool.
them, it's very surreal what's happened, because all this stuff is out of necessity because we're low budget movies. We do studio films on a beer budget, and we do them in a short amount of time. It's like 4 to 5 months to deliver this movie from the time we started principal photography. I dare Marvel or DC to try to do a movie in 4 months like this with over 400 visual effect shots.
Yeah.
So we're always a little rough around the edges, but there's a sincerity and an energy that comes from making these movies.
Absolutely, yeah. And I'm sure that's why they're so popular. So, well, I can't wait for the Sharknado carnage that's about to hit us.
Thank you, Scott.
So thank you so much for being here, Anthony.
Yeah, and also people don't know this. Scott, when I used to be a journalist, I hired Scott, I think maybe on your first gig, right?
Gave me my first job.
Yeah,
in the
so
biz.
now that's kind of
So we've come
full
full circle here, which is amazing. So thanks so much for being here, and
Thank you,
for
Scott.
all your Comic-Con needs, keep it locked to IGN.
Oh, hell no.